The 111th Congress and President Obama face a daunting task of fixing a failed banking system in the United States. Los Angeles will be looking towards Washington in the coming months. Like Humpty Dumpty, the seemingly invincible American financial system has had a great fall. Among the new president's economic team will be old faces with new titles. Not old in terms of age, but old in terms of being a part of the American financial community, which reaped huge profits, gambled big, and lost big. It's been the year of the average Joes. Joe the plumber received a significant amount of attention in the presidential debates. And today we have a Joe the banker, whose credentials are far more vast than Joe the plumber. Joaeph Lynyak is a partner with LA and Washington, D.C. based Venable. Joe is an expert in the banking regulatory world. Welcome, Joe the banker.
Thank you for having me. And by the way, unlike Joe the plumber, I have my license.
Oh, I am so glad to hear that you have your license. Okay.
Very important.
So you're going to get to opine here on the new economic cabinet. Does Timothy Geithner, Christina Romer, Lawrence Summers, and Melody Barnes have the right stuff to take the leadership helm in Washington?
Well, I think you have to take a look at, there's going to be a change in policy. And the policy, I think, in going forward is probably, I would call it cautious regulation versus a laissez-faire approach to banking regulation. And what we've learned over the last year, particularly over the last 8 to 10 years, is the fact that the markets, economic laissez-faire regulation really doesn't work that well because sometimes the markets go haywire. And also too, there's a really important component here of safety and soundness in terms of regulation of the marketplace. Safety and soundness is what is necessary to be able to make a reasonable profit, to manage risk, and to have capable management in order to return to the shareholders. That's an important component. But also, it's, do we understand what's going on here? And I think one of the things that has occurred in the last couple of years is we've lost control of being able to understand the real complexity of the marketplace. So I think we're going to take a step back and say, let's re-regulate and let's go forward slowly, loosening the strings of regulation when necessary, but pulling back and making sure that the federal banking regulators and the state banking regulators really can examine and supervise and know what's necessary so that people have got the proper capital and we don't have the mess that we're in now.
Well, this cabinet, Timothy Geithner, Treasury Secretary, has served 3 presidents. Christina Romer, out of Berkeley, is a financial historian, has written a book about the Great Depression and has written about recessions. Lawrence Summers was in the Treasury Department chair during the last year of the Clinton administration. And Melody Barnes comes out of Senator Kennedy's campaign and Senator Kennedy's camp for 15 years. So they're really old Washington faces. So are they the right people? Is Obama playing it too safe, or should he have tougher regulatory people in place?
Well, one of the things that's kind of important, and things happen so fast nowadays. We were talking about the S&L crisis in the early 1990s, and it seemed to be moving at a snail's pace, even though they were closing down institutions actually relatively quickly every couple of weeks. Now it's moving in an almost instantaneous fashion. But what's important is the historical perspective, and many of those individuals that you named have got the gray hair, have been around, and are, from an historical perspective, understand what came before. And one of the things about our financial economy is that we go in cycles. Somewhere between 50 and 60 years, we have a major financial crisis, and lo and behold, we have one now, but the remedies that we put in place are the things that caused the next crisis. And so what you need to do is reverse engineer, go back and say, what really happened here? Why did it occur?
So is this why I put a historian? Oh, Christina Romer?
Very important, because what came before, for example, a lot of folks are criticizing the removal of the Glass-Steagall Act restrictions, which separated investment banking from commercial banking. And all of a sudden, through the auspices of Senator Graham, we we put them back together, allowed them to be affiliated, and they were borrowing and affiliating themselves and trading assets back and forth and lending to each other. And that really added to this mess. Also, too, the leverage factor that was permitted significantly added to the problem we've got today. So, question, if you don't understand where it came from, you may not be able to fix it. But understanding a historical perspective may really help us in terms of coming up with the next structure, because that's going to be one of the real goals of the next administration.
But will we have the power? I guess that's the question. In other words, Summers, of course, was the former Treasury Secretary, so he obviously has some chutzpah. Plus, he took on a lot of controversy in Harvard with comments that he made over the years, and so he's a guy who's had a lot thrown at him in the past. But will Timothy Geithner and Melanie Barnes and Christina Romer really have the power to really weigh in and encourage change and more regulation?
Oh, I think with the new administration, certainly a new administration has got the first 100 days, the first 1,000 days when they're able to indicate the fact that they've got a mandate. This economic team, I think, has got three goals. The first goal is market acceptance, because the market, when they were announced, the market went up several hundred points. Everyone was happy with the result, and that's very important because of the way we've seen the volatility of the marketplace the last couple of weeks. So playing to the markets and making sure that they are secure in the nominees is important. Goal one already achieved. Number two is the economic crisis, because what's been thrown in the lap of President-elect Obama is some real dire straits. Monday, I guess, they announced the fact that, lo and behold, we really do have a recession. So they're going to have to craft a recovery package, which is going to have those different components to it that typically go in recovery packages, which are perhaps construction projects, possible tax breaks, relief for individual homeowners, relief for wage earners. But then in addition, down the line, after they're done with those two major steps, they're going to have to figure out, what do we do about fixing the system going forward? I think that's probably a 2-year project, but they've got a lot on their plates, but they're clearly very capable.
How about new banks? Should money be coming into new banks instead of all the bailouts to the old guys?
Well, the answer is, I think that it should be, but let's take a look at California, in particular Los Angeles. You go back 25 years, and I always like their historical perspective myself. We had Security Pacific, we had First Interstate, we had a big piece of Bank of America. They're all gone now. California has very few major money center banks that are left. Actually, they're regional banks.
Why?
They got acquired, they've moved elsewhere. And I think that the management of those institutions, from my perspective, have lost sight of the fact that California is the #1 marketplace in the United States. And I think they should be paying more attention to us here. But what's happened when they left? Small and medium-sized banks have moved in. They are knowledgeable about the marketplace. They're knowledgeable about what Southern California is. It's a middle management, small business haven. They understand them. They capture those.
So there are new banks in LA.
Absolutely, dozens of them.
LA.
And they're all meeting needs.
And are we going to have influence in Washington from LA? Because I don't see any names in this cabinet that represent the power of the financial interest of Los Angeles.
Well, I think, again, that remains to be seen, but certainly the two senators from California are becoming quite senior. They're very, very well respected on the business side, particular Senator Feinstein, and we'll see how that goes.
Thank you, Joe the banker. We appreciate your being on LA Business Today.
Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you for having me.
I'm Sharon Jimenez. This is LA Business Today.